Hey folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. This podcast is being brought to you by On Target Claims, where their motto is on target from setback to settlement. Now listen, a little background. I've worked with these guys on the job, on the street for over 25 years, man, and they have always done the right thing and have always had my back. Now, in this second chapter, let them have your back. Right? You wouldn't go to court without an attorney. Why would you go up against an insurance company without representation, right? They represent you, the policyholder, when you go up against an insurance company submitting a claim. And I can tell you this, right? From beginning to end, they're going to be with you during the entire process. They're going to properly document that claim with the latest technology. And then when it comes time to getting things fixed, they've got a complete stable of vendors that are certified that are going to get it done right the first time. They also offer a pre-loss planning and policy review. So you know exactly what you're covered for, right? Make sure that you're adequately covered. The time to find out that you're not isn't after that horrific event. Okay? So give my friends a call at On Target Claims, 561-208-1775, or go to their website, ontargetclaims.com. They cover the entire state of Florida, offices in Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, and tell them John sent you. And now let's get to the episode. Fucking, you call yourself an author, which I think is hysterical. Listen, I'm coming after you, man. Let me tell you something. I wish I was there so I could give you a big hug, man. I absolutely. We're going to start this fucking thing right now, man, because we're moving. David Berez in the house, fucking big shot. Man, he's such a good fucking guy. A resilient life, a cop's journey in pursuit of purpose. So when your friends write books, you're a little, like you want to give them the benefit of the doubt because they're your friend and you want to be supportive. And sometimes you go, that was great, buddy. Good job. Yeah, all right. Way to go. And then you change the topic real quick because you just wasted 3 days of your life reading a book. You'll never get that time back. Reading David's book added years to my life. It was, man, I wish I was intelligent enough and had a vocabulary where I could articulate to you the impact that these 211 pages had on me. A brother from another mother, and then maybe that mother, I don't know, maybe they talked to each other in a different life, man. I don't know what the hell was going on, but everything that you talked about in this book was immediately relatable. And there were so many things that you talked about and that you shared. I got notes. I got 2 pages of notes. I couldn't write in the book because there wasn't enough space for me to write. We're going to talk about your book. We're going to talk about what it means to be resilient. We're going to talk about maybe how we support each other. I think that might be a good topic. How we support each other through tough times. Because you've been there and I've been there. And it's one of those things that I think is important for us to remember that, we're just coming off of Thanksgiving and we have a lot to be thankful for. We always have something to express some gratitude. And sometimes that's hard to find. So without further ado, man, we're just fucking rolling into this bad boy. David Berez, it is so friggin' awesome to see you, my friend.
It's great to be here with you. And it's, such a journey. All of this is such a journey. We've both been on this crazy, wild roller coaster ride. And we've come through some crazy times, but honestly, I love looking forward and understanding how we can just do things better for ourselves and others, finding value in serving others and finding meaning in the value that others give to us.
100%, man. 100%. It's, we talked, was it well over a year ago?
For the first time, yeah.
Yeah, man, for the first time. And we still haven't met each other face to face, and which is kind of crazy because
it is wild.
It is. but I'll take it, man. I'll take it however I can get it.
By the way, it doesn't, there's no, being together, obviously, physically is so important. You can create that connection, but I almost don't feel like it was necessary. It's necessary. I feel like you and I have gotten so close through all of these different life circumstances that I don't need to physically touch you.
No,
which is wild.
yeah, no, it's I feel the same way, brother. It's it is going to happen though. You
100%.
know, sooner rather than later. Sooner rather than
We're
later.
gonna make it work.
You've got, listen, I didn't realize I'm just gonna shoot off my little list here because I have some things that I need to talk about.
I love that you have a list though. That's freaking
Oh,
awesome.
I've got a crazy list, bro. Listen, I'm not fucking around. I didn't realize you got into the disease of caring for others at such an early age, bro. You like how I put that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's 100%. It's an addiction.
Yeah.
What I later discovered, it's my why.
Right.
But your why can also turn into your addiction.
You started it as a you got your EMT certification at 16.
Correct.
Which means you started like providing life-saving services to people before that. You're a regular.
Yeah,
I love your Doogie Howser reference, by the way. Yeah, I know that one. Thank you.
Yeah, I was 14 when I joined the rescue squad. I was a freshman in high school.
Listen, all right, listen. So I'm having a heart attack, and fucking Poindexter, Doogie Howser comes over with some apparatus. What is this? Take your kid to work day? Get him out of here! Holy smokes!
Yeah, it was honestly, it was such a great experience though, because, well, for me, it was twofold. One, I needed a reason to get out of the house.
Right.
And my living environment wasn't awesome. But for me, it gave me purpose, it gave me meaning, and it gave me an avenue to what I thought I wanted at the time, which was to become a doctor.
Right.
And it was just really cool to have those mentors and have those community leaders that I looked up to. You know, one of which is still a guy I call every year on Father's Day. And it was just cool to have that connection to my community and the people, and serving people is just really at the core of who I am, which was all, and not patting myself on the back, but it's what motivates me to get up.
No, it's who you were and who you are. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Father's Day, right? So listen, I thought all Jewish family, listen, you destroyed my argument about the Jewish family. Here I am, like admonishing other ethnic groups to be more like the Jewish family, right?
Oh, mine was a wreck.
Oh, you throw me a curveball here in the first chapter. I'm going, holy smokes, what a shit show.
Yeah.
So, all right. So stereotypes can blow up in your face. Now, listen, the ones about Italians having the criminal connection in the element, valid. Irish people having problems with booze, valid. We could go on, and I'm going to stop there because I'm going to, I'll take the lumps on my own ethnicity. But, I always thought about the Jewish family and why, right? Why? I think people are jealous because of the tight-knit community. And, but your dad was a special kind of fucking piece of work, huh?
Yeah. Not a great role model. Couldn't hold down a job. He had a secretary that followed him to every one of his failed opportunities for employment. We never really could understand why until we understood why.
Yeah, man. That's a chapter. Come on. That's corporate espionage 101, man.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's funny.
I don't want to talk about your dad, bro, because your dad, quite frankly, you painted such a vivid picture. I in my mind, I saw his apartment. I mean, it was so messed up that you were that good at describing I smelt the room
It was terrible.
that you were in, right? And so
So I
let's
think for the listener, we should apply some context here.
okay.
So uh, it, my dad was estranged from me when I was 13, and never really had much of a connection with him beyond
Right.
that. However, when he passed a number of years ago, I did take it as a responsibility to clean up whatever mess he left behind, and figuratively and literally.
Well, listen,
And
well, let's not let to give the listener context. He did reach out to you.
he did. He did reach out to me a number of years ago. My dad was a diabetic, and he was in kidney failure.
You wanted
And
a fucking kid.
he came to me at work one day looking
Oh
for a kidney.
God.
Uh,
Hey, listen, I don't know what you're doing after lunch, but I could really use a kidney right now.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah, that
smokes,
was pretty
David.
wild. You know, I was very fortunate to have dispatchers at that time that were had the wherewithal, who thought I didn't even have a father at that point. So they were
Right.
kind of like, it really set the alarms off in their head,
Yeah, yeah.
which was good. But yeah, so yeah, he had tried to come around a bunch of times, and you know, he was a useless turd. So I didn't allow him back into my life because I had
Right.
already mourned him once.
Right.
I didn't want to have to do that anymore.
Right.
But yeah, so when he passed, you know, I helped clean out his apartment, which really had nothing in it. It was a a Jewish home, nursing home for people that didn't have any money. It was funded by some Jewish organization, and yeah, it was just like dirty, bloody, smelly
Yeah, man.
remnants all over the place. And he was a diabetic that didn't take care of himself, so you could still smell the ketones in the room long after he was out of it. Like, it was just gross.
Right, right, right.
His jacket was the only jacket he had in the closet was from when I was a kid. It was crazy,
Right. Which is really that
crazy.
laid the groundwork for other men stepping up and being father figures in your life, which
Absolutely.
you've listed them throughout the book of these gentlemen who interceded at various stages of your development. Some were on the job, some were family friends, and I mean, like that's the I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, that's sad, but look at the blessing.
100%. Yeah, in the tragedy of not being raised by a father with quality in my household, I have certainly been blessed by having many of them in my life.
That is awesome. And that was one of the like, listen, there's so many key takeaways to this story. That was one of them for me. Is that what's that saying, David? If you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at will change.
100%.
Right. And so,
I
all
love
right, we
that.
don't have this figure here, but you know what? Um, that doesn't mean that they're not out there.
Yeah. And that started with my time on the rescue squad as a 14-year-old kid.
Yep.
And Bob Thomas, I'll name him out loud,
Yep.
was the number one person that picked me up by my bootstraps, gave me a path to take through that volunteer EMS world, to show me the way to do things right. You know, his daughter Lauren is a couple years younger than me, and we're still actually friends to this day.
Nice.
And he was, you know, there's part of him I think that always wanted a son, which is why he kind of like took me up under his wings. Lauren is an only child, and but we had this relationship, and to this day I still talk to him. You know, it's funny because Lauren's kids and one of my kids they play baseball together, so they're on the same baseball
Nice.
team. So I get to see the family all the time. But yeah, it's he's one of the earlier influences in my life, and you know, it's just developed from there, having additional father figures, which was
Right.
amazing.
I love it. And so, you know, you started with the EMS early on, but the really that ran its course, man. You know, your true calling was gonna be a police officer.
100%.
And you started off at a smaller department in the hopes of kind of going to the I don't want to say big leagues, but everybody gets their foot in the door somewhere, right?
And in New Jersey, the best way to do it is being what we call a special down at the Jersey Shore. You know, for anybody that's been to the Jersey Shore, we have all the boardwalks and, you know, Seaside Heights, Seaside Park, Wildwood, Point Pleasant Beach.
Wildwood,
And
if I may interject a Wildwood story.
this is a Wildwood fireman story.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no. There's nothing to do with that,
Gotcha.
unfortunately. I a buddy of mine back in the day, um, New Kids on the Block. All right, ready? Remember New Kids
That's
on the
really
Block?
back in the day. Yeah.
All
You're
right, well,
doing good.
that's back in the day, and we were at some. My buddy Tom and I were at some place, and he was telling one of the DJ there that I was one of the New Kids on the Block because I
Oh,
had
that's really
this
fun.
stupid dance move that they weren't known yet. They were just like, they had a song out or some shit. Anyways, the story goes to shit after that. But I will say that we left our mark uh there, and I remember the cheesesteaks.
Remember the tram car?
Hmm.
Tram car that goes up and down the boardwalk in Wildwood? That's always
I'm
an
not.
icon.
I was drinking back then, bro. So there's a lot
Gotcha.
of periods of
Little
fuzziness,
fuzziness.
fuzziness. So you're working the Jersey Shore, my friend.
Yeah, working the Jersey Shore and Seaside, walking up and down the boardwalk as what we call, class 1 or class 2 special. It's class 1 is like a week's worth of, yep, this is what a cop does, and here you go out on the boardwalk and do it for us. Basically writing parking tickets and that kind of stuff.
Okay,
But
okay.
class 2 is, you're fully trained through the police academy, but you're not full time.
They only give you half the bullets.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, you have to leave your gun there at the end of the shift, and you pick it up again when you get back. But but yeah, so it was, you're a supplemental for the full time. I think there's only 6 or 7 cops in Seaside Park where I work,
Right.
Full time, and then they supplement with like 25 specials during in season.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was a great experience. I've learned how to deal with people for sure. A lot of drunk people.
Yes.
And we had the MTV Beach House was there when I was there, so it was a lot of fun. Not the Snooki version, the original Carson Daly version.
Oh, well, then there you go. Our listeners are going to appreciate that you made that distinction, because
Exactly.
I don't have any idea what the hell you're talking about. But that was awesome. So you left the Jersey Shore, so to speak,
Yep.
right? And your next, you were taking the step to be a full-fledged, full-time police officer in Jersey.
Yeah. In East Windsor Township, which is the town I grew up in, and the town I was a volunteer in. So 10 years after starting my volunteer EMS career, I then became a full-time police officer in December of 1999.
Dude, I love your stories. Listen, this is what the book isn't. The book isn't a compilation of cop stories. You use like half a chapter, you bang out a bunch of titles of some one-liners of these were some of the funny moments that I remember. And dude, you had me chuckling, man. You had me chuckling. Because listen, nobody, if you've been on the job for more than a day, you've lost your gun.
100%.
You may never want to admit it. You've looked down, you've reached for it, and it's not been there. And you tell that story, and I caught myself, my cheeks were hurting from friggin' smiling, because one story, listen, it doesn't matter whether you're in Florida, in Anchorage, on the Jersey Shore, or down in Texas. It's the same nonsense. We just different climates, really. Different climates.
100%. Yeah, that was a bad day. So on a less fearful note, we've all left our gun in the gun box at the jail, right? Like that's happened.
Yeah.
If that hasn't happened to you once, you're not a real cop. But yeah, so I in a foot chase, we had shitty holsters at the time.
Right.
They were like level 1, these snap things.
No retention.
None. Zero retention.
No.
It was like literally drop it in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we were in a foot chase through the woods, and that thing bounced out like a bunny rabbit.
Right, of course. And then, all right, cover down on him. And you were, I would love to, but so you were like, you picked up your baton and you held it like a rifle or some shit.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I love it. You got to improvise, and your partner's going, oh, that's not good. I mean, I hope Skippy here doesn't figure out you're holding a baton and not a shotgun.
You know what the funny part is? My partner's name was Skippy.
That's maybe, subconsciously, that's why I said that. So dude, you put some funny stories in there, which is nice. Cause you know what I like? And listen, if you haven't thought about getting your first responder a gift for Christmas or Hanukkah, I could say that, right? Right? Do we do gifts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, I don't fucking know,
Jews
bro.
love free stuff.
Jews, listen, get your Jewish friends, all your Jewish cop friends. I don't know that there's a lot of them.
There's not that many of us.
No, they're a dwindling
We're
bunch.
a cheap date.
Yeah, you are. Get all your friends. It's just such a great book, man. I'm going to plug it again a million times. A Resilient Life, A Cop's Journey in Pursuit of Purpose, David Berez. Because you know what you're going to do when you give them this book? You're going to give them something that they didn't see coming, man, which is some love and some reflection and some support. And that's some of the things that I came away with. So we're going to continue, bro, because I just, I got more shit on my list.
Are you checking it off as we go along?
I am mentally. I am mentally. Nice. I'm trying to go in chronological order. So you're on the mean streets there of in Jersey, in the town that you grew up on. I love going to calls where you have to confiscate the beer. That made me chuckle as well. Weird, didn't we see her earlier? Yes, we did. Get her a beer. Let's go. Good times, man. Good times. And then I think we roll into 9/11, no?
Yeah. That was about, a year and a half or so
Right.
into my career. And certainly not, obviously it's a pivotal point in our lives. All of us were alive at the time, in our society and our everything, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it was a pivotal point in my career and in the way I saw the world.
How disenfranchised did you become when your agency said to you,
quote,
as the towers were falling, that's NYPD's problem, not ours?
Yeah, the quote was, "Not our city, not our problem. Sorry, kid."
When I heard that, Dave, so I got woken up. I was working mids, and my dad woke me up on the phone. Hey, put the TV on. I'm like, oh, fuck, what? Like, or another pursuit, or Channel 7's got another pursuit, right? Like, fuck, Dad. It's not news. And our immediate reaction was to go into work.
Yeah.
And we were in Florida. We're like, no, we're fucking going. Like, that was everybody. I had guys, Howard Rudolph booked a fucking plane ticket. As soon as planes could fly, he was landing with a fucking respirator mask and to help. I mean, and you're next door, you can smell the fucking towers burning, and your guys say, fucking no, stand down.
Yeah, just for context, the town that I work in, grew up in is exit 8 on the New Jersey Turnpike, because that's how we label everything here in New Jersey.
Yes, of course.
And we are, I think the measurement was like 54 miles southwest of New York City, direct shot right at the turnpike. And you were able to see the smoke from the bypass that goes over our town, vehicle bypass from one side of town to the other. From the top of the bypass, you were able to see the smoke. That's how close we are.
Yeah.
And my partner and I, we said, you know what, we're doing this. So Bart and I, we just hopped in a car and we went up there and did our thing. We didn't really care about the perspective of the town.
I think honestly that's got to be, listen, I hate speaking for people when you're not in that position, but I think we've all kind of been in, I don't want to say similar positions, because that was a horrific event, but we've all looked at each other and said, let's roll. Like our friends on 93 did, right? I mean, you just say, you know what, I'll deal with the fallout from this later, but I gotta do this. I can't not. And that's the way you rolled that.
So interesting you use that phrase. Todd Beamer and his wife Lisa, they lived in the town over from where I worked in Cranberry, and so that resonated with us pretty intensely in the days, weeks, months to follow, when that became a thing.
Right. Right. And so you went there, and I thought it was for the casual observer, you make assumptions like, well, there's a command post, there's this, everything is well orchestrated, these are the professionals. And you make a very valid point. The command post was in one of the towers.
Yeah.
So it was a shit show. There was no command and control,
Zero.
incident
Literally
command
zero.
structure. It was all hands on deck, grab a fucking shovel, grab a pail.
Units were
help.
operating independently. Like, you'd have a sergeant in charge of, 10, 15, 20 guys, whoever showed up from that platoon, or wherever they originally met. Like, people just came to work, right? Like, it's just New York City had, at that time, it's different now, but at that time, I think there was like 38,000 cops in New York City around 9/11.
Right.
And they all live within the 5 boroughs. So, you have the Tunnel to Towers organization, which is, Steven Siller was the firefighter, and he's a prime example of what people are doing. The fireman, he wasn't working that day, but they all went to their firehouses, and then Steven Siller and his crew literally ran across the Brooklyn Bridge to get to Lower Manhattan from Brooklyn,
right,
where he was stationed. So there's cops and firefighters from all over the city that were doing that. And then, Jersey, we're right over the river. We are closer to New York City than most of New York is.
Right. And for the listeners, you spent a considerable amount. You consider yourself a New Yorker. Your
100%.
family has spent
I grew up there.
Considerable amount of time living in New York. Your grandparents. I mean, this was not their problem. This was your problem.
Correct.
I don't want to talk about. Yeah, I do want to talk about that. I'm sorry, but you know how I am. You do, like everybody, like a million people. You wish you could have done more, but what you did was more than enough. It was more than many. And unfortunately, there's a part of you that you're not getting back. Just
that is true.
Fucking way it is. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. But you had I went to the memorial. Oh my goodness. I couldn't even tell you when I went. Maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe. And I wasn't there, David, but it was the longest funeral I've ever been to.
Yes.
And that's the best way I can describe it.
I love that. I love that analogy.
It was the longest funeral I've ever been to, and the most moving, with people I didn't know, but I knew all of them. It was very profound. And your experience there was I felt touched when you mentioned about the woman who stayed with you and kind of was your chaperone through the museum.
Yep. They do that complimentary to any first responders that were there as first responders. And I'm sure they do it for others as well. I can only speak on behalf of first responders.
Right. And so you came across the fire truck, and you actually had a picture of that engine on that day.
I did. So I'd taken, we're talking 2001, where cell phones were a limited thing. They were, your little Nokia 9150 that you had with the little stub antenna,
the yellow
one.
You're
lucky.
Yeah.
People still had bag phones at that time in their cars. So there was no way to take pictures. Digital cameras weren't even really a thing yet. So my partner and I each had a couple of those, wedding style box cameras. On the wedding table, right?
Yeah, of course.
In our go bag. So we had both taken some pictures with those, shitty 35 millimeter box cameras. And one of the pictures I had taken was of this, crushed, dilapidated ladder truck. And of course, didn't think anything of it at the time. I will say though, I have one really intentional picture from there, and it was the collapse rescue truck. The thing was probably a 1970s tractor trailer style truck. Almost looked like an old Coke truck, a Coke delivery
Yeah,
truck.
of course. I
With the
understood.
slide up
Yes.
doors on the side.
Yep.
And that was actually the one point I had broken down while we were there. The collapse rescue truck had nothing in it, and there was literally nothing in it.
Right.
And I later learned that every person from that crew never came back to that truck.
Right. Yeah. All their equipment was with them.
And that broke my heart.
Sure.
That ladder truck that I have the picture of, though, I didn't think anything of it much over many years. And then when I got to the museum and I came around the corner in the basement and there's a fire truck in the basement, I literally fell to my knees and collapsed. I didn't understand or know why. Nothing clicked.
Right. Right. Right.
And then something caused me to like just flip through my pictures, kind of trying to ground myself.
Yeah, man. Yeah, of course.
I had a picture of that truck, which I was very fortunate to be able to share with the museum.
Yeah. They, I think that was the first, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they didn't have a picture of that.
A real picture from that day.
Yeah.
Of that truck.
So in the history of that truck is that it doesn't have a history, actually. It was just the easiest one to get out of the yard in Staten Island when they built the museum.
Huh. Crazy.
Yeah.
I want to take you from 9/11. I want to talk about your family a little bit. How the hell did you get all this information? Listen, you know what happens when people ask me about my family? My mother-in-law kids me all the time. She goes, "Well, what about?" I go, "I don't know." And she goes, "But how do you not know?" I go, "I don't know." What about your cousin and your grand? I don't know. Listen, 23andMe or some bullshit. You had to do some archaeological research here because I was enthralled with hearing stories about your family in Germany and how they escaped Hitler's Germany and going through France and making their way to the United States. And I loved it. This is just stuff, I mean, I'm a shit historian for the Kellys, apparently. If I write a book on the Kellys' history, it's going to be like half a chapter, bro. Holy smokes.
So yeah, growing up, it was part of our story. It was
it's a Jewish thing,
meant
right?
Everything
Is it the
to my
Jewish
grandparents.
thing?
What's that?
Is it the Jewish thing? Because it's a community, man. It's a tight-knit community. And I don't know anything about my history.
So we talked about it. And because my great grandparents, especially, well, I should qualify that statement. My grandfather's parents were killed in Dachau in the concentration camp.
Yep.
So I obviously never met them. My grandmother's parents.
Hey, I was trying to bring you out of the sadness, and now we're talking about concentration.
No,
dude, my bad.
All good.
My bad. I kind of fucked this part of the interview up, man.
Nah, it's all good.
Good.
I can bring it around to like.
Good. Let's talk.
I'll bring it around to smiles. So my grandmother's parents, my great grandfather had passed before I was born, but his wife, my great grandmother, we call her Uma, which is German for grandmother. And so Uma was she died in 1986, I believe it was, but she was like this just kind-hearted, good soul to her great grandchildren, and would tell us stories about what they called the old country.
Oh, wow.
And it was just really cool. I was always interested in it. And the more I was interested, the more stories they told.
So this wasn't just so I don't have too high of an opinion of you. This was information given to you.
This was not stories. This is just stuff that I know of my family's history.
Because you had people that like to tell the stories and share their history with you.
Correct.
My nana just hit me with a spoon. That's all she shared with me. I'm sure there were some good stories, but I didn't get to the story part.
And when I was 13 and had my bar mitzvah, as my gift, my grandparents and my mom, we went to Germany to show me the living history of all of the
Oh,
stories that I've learned. So I was able to put a visual, because I'm a visual learner, which is awesome. So
yeah,
I was able to put a visual to all of those stories, and they took me to all the places they always talked about. And I talk about the hotel and the wine and stuff like that in the book. And that we went there. We went to Sunkleshausen. We went to see the Lorelei, and we went to the tree that my grandmother would stand under when she was being ridiculed, but when she was a kid. And it was very interesting, so impactful.
yeah,
But the most impactful part though of that trip though was when we walked down the street in the towns that they grew up in. Some people would run out and embrace my family because I can't believe we haven't seen you in 35 years, and so sorry for what happened, and so good that you're because listen, there were good people. Not everybody was one of Hitler's lackeys, right? Like there's
this was a horrible time in the history of the world.
Then there were others when we were walking down the street that would close their shutters.
Yeah, man.
It was very interesting. Very interesting.
Shame.
I think that's what it is.
You think? Yeah. You think? A little bit, buddy.
But everybody knew the silly Americans were there. It was wild. It was a great experience, but it put like an exclamation point on all of the history my family had provided me of my family over the years. It was really cool.
I love that. And so tell me about the pencil pyramid scheme.
So when my grandparents came here, they came separately, by the way. They knew of each other, which I go into in the book, but they didn't even realize they knew of each other. And so when they got here, one of the things that my grandfather had done was he had to get a job, right? So he was here. His parents were still in Germany. His brother was, in the area. So he got a job, but didn't know what to do. And he didn't have a skill set yet. He was only, I think, 17 or whatever when he came here. And so he went to some other German Jewish guy in another tenement house down the street. And the guy goes, here, take this pencil and go sell it for whatever, a penny or whatever it is. And when you sell it, come back to me. I'll give you 2 pencils. And when you sell those 2 pencils, you'll come back to me again. You keep the money for one of them. I keep the money for the other one. And they went from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 30, and he had a pencil selling business until he moved out of New York City. And that's how he paid his bills and ate dinner,
Dude.
Pretty wild.
That is I hear that story and I'm like,
that's resilience. That's great.
What are we fucking bitching up? What are we missing? What are we pissing and moaning about?
Yep.
And
so he took that pencil selling experience, best life lesson he ever had, because he eventually came to New Jersey on the better side of the river, and he ended up buying a farm, and they sold eggs, and they delivered eggs all over the place. He made something of himself out of the first pencil.
Out of a pencil, he becomes one of the largest egg distributors for all the markets in the area.
Yeah, and the one thing I hate about my grandfather, I put it in the book, is that he didn't buy this stupid
that whole patch of land
on Route 18. I'll never forgive him for that. It was 10 grand. They wanted it for I
don't even think it was 10 grand, was it? Was it 10 grand?
10 grand, I believe it was, for 10 acres. And on Route 18, which
I thought it was 3 grand for 10 acres.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Listen. Hey,
you read the book.
Listen, fucker. You just wrote it. I read it, man. All right.
I think you're right. It was 3 grand for 10 acres. And it was on Route 18 in East Brunswick, dirt road, which went from Rutgers University, which was a very small school at the time, all the way down to the Jersey Shore, dirt highway. And he's like, nah, I'm good. Nothing's ever going to happen here. What am I going to do with this piece of sand lot? Literally. And so that turned into the Brunswick Square Mall, later sold for $100 million. It's just whatever. Yeah. Thanks, Gramps. Appreciate it.
Listen. He's still a brilliant man in my book.
He was awesome. He was awesome. I say that in jest, obviously.
Of course you do.
But you know what? I wouldn't trade what I have now for that $100 million in misery.
Oh, no, of course. Listen, it's one of those things that's kind of nice to reflect back and go, wait a minute, what?
Exactly.
Wait a minute, what? So listen, moving along, my friend. Away camps. I went to away camp, bro.
Where'd you go?
I, dude, I seriously think I have a problem. No shtick.
They took Italian Irish guys
Yeah,
to
well, it wasn't a fancy Jewish away camp. It was away camp for desolate youths.
you were voluntold.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I believe you're gonna have fun, right? Yeah, yes. Yes, we're having fun. Listen, the beatings will continue until morale improves.
Absolutely.
So your experiences at away camp, man, they brought smiles to my face because that's where you start making, that's where you start understanding that for as much as we're different, we're all the same.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, it was a great experience. I reflect on it often. One of my best friends is still one of the first kids I met at camp when I was 8.
Yeah,
And good old David Lester, spoke to him when I spoke to him Sunday, actually, on the way home from.
that's awesome, man.
Okay. So yeah, so it was a great, I was there 8 years and I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about relationships and how to deal with people.
Yeah.
You got 10 kids stuck in a bunk. If you don't get along, things go sideways really quick.
Yeah, man. No, it doesn't take much, man. So learning how to interact
and it was a co-ed camp, which that camp still is, as so many of them are not at this point, but that was a co-ed camp, and you learn about how to interact with girls at 8 years old, and
right. Yeah.
and it allowed me to have such positive pro-socialization experiences.
Yeah.
And by the way, stories I would never repeat to my mom growing up.
Yeah, no, that's just
yeah.
She would not send you. She would cease to send you if the information got back to her.
Oh yeah. 12, 13 years old, touching things for the first time.
Yeah, what? You're having way too much fun. You're not going to that camp again.
Absolutely.
Hey man, speaking about your mom, and so I got emotional reading this
Complicated relationship.
Yeah, man. Unless you're like, unless your relationship is scripted on some fucking sitcom, I think it is complicated.
Yeah.
Because our moms, man, I don't want to say there's a love-hate relationship, but like they want to be our moms, but we need to fucking grow. And I think when we don't, I think part of us thinks that growing means like us isolating ourselves to a certain extent. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need you anymore, but then you realize like that you'll always need your mom, and that's that smack in the face that you get when you get older.
Yeah.
Like,
and
what the fuck was
she's not there to make a phone call to you.
What the fuck was I doing?
Yeah.
Your story, and my mom was always very supportive of me, though. Very supportive of me on the job, and that really wasn't going on with you.
Not so much, again, complicated, right? So
All right,
my
I just want to make a note here. We were on a roller coaster where we're sadness, laughter, laughter, and now we're going back to sadness, bro. I just want to make sure.
I like using the teaching model. So I'll start with the good stuff, squeeze the bad stuff in the sandwich, and then put the end,
yeah,
the
man.
good stuff again at the end. So yeah, it was complicated with her. My dad, as we already established, was a hell of a turd. When they met, he was in the Army Reserves,
right?
And so he was in uniform when they met and all this good stuff. So when she saw that was the path I was going to go as law enforcement, I think it reminded her.
You just put that together for me. Do you think that she was thinking that you would be him?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, fuck, that makes a lot of sense now.
Absolutely. There was a lot of resentment.
I didn't know why you put that in the book. I didn't know why you were drawing that out of the book, because you don't come right out and say that, but that makes sense to me now.
Yeah, that's kind of the takeaway I have.
Okay.
She always wanted the best for me and gave me what she thought I needed in life as a mom, because that's what moms do, right? Like,
right.
Moms generally don't have a bad bone in their body.
Right.
But mine, she didn't have confidence that there was a best version of me.
Huh.
So what her expectations were of me were set so low that she became a crutch early on for me until I realized that she was a crutch and that it was holding me back because of her low expectations. It's her and my grandmother had a disdain for men in general. And I think me being male was a challenge for her because I was her child too. So she didn't know how to square those two things.
Huh. That was the conflict that she wrestled with.
Correct. That's my opinion on it.
Right. No, I think it's valid knowing knowing a little bit more now. Yeah.
So I think that when I became independent or more independent, and the fact that I wanted to be a police officer, it was all too much for her. She was there every step of the way, but reluctantly. I do remember my swearing in. She was excited for me, but I also think she started mourning me that day as her child.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah. So it was complicated. And then, she passed away in 2003. So it'll be 20 years this year.
Wow.
Sorry. 2003 she passed away. So it's been 20 years.
Mom gets, I'm going to fast forward a couple things if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mom gets diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Correct. A glioblastoma stage 4. For those that are not familiar, same thing that Ted Kennedy had, and that's kind of pretty much a death sentence.
And this is the part that I'm thankful for. You know that, and you know she's got basically 8.5 weeks.
Well, we knew it was short-lived, but that ended up being the time frame.
Yes.
Long enough to say goodbye.
And to maybe
reconcile.
That's a great word, man. And you took advantage of that time.
100%. Yeah. I didn't take a leave of absence from work. That's the wrong word, but I had enough sick time that I was, I wasn't working.
Yeah.
So I dedicated those last 8.5 weeks to her, for her. And I wouldn't change that for the world. We had this conversation with somebody today that taking care of her in her final days was the most meaning I've ever had in relationship to my mom. And the meaning and purpose behind that is something that I will positively take away from that forever.
Right.
There's no better act or deed you can do for someone than take care of them when they can no longer take care of themselves, especially at their end of life stage.
I think that's love in its purest form.
And I think some of that, if you want to put a religious context in there, at a Jewish funeral, they say the last good deed you can do for someone is put dirt on their casket to bury them, because that's the last physical thing you can do for that person, for their body.
Right.
And I look at her whole dying process that way.
Right.
Is that the last thing I could do for her was make sure she went in peace.
Right. Yeah. That's important for her, but me being selfish, more important for you.
I agree with that.
And I mean that because
devastating as that was, though,
you're still here.
Yes. And as devastating as that was, I walked away with purpose and meaning from that.
Yeah, man.
And I was, as hard as it is to set somebody free, I did it in love, with love. Yeah. And I can walk away living the rest of my days knowing that.
I think it's important for people to understand that sometimes when you do something for somebody, you're actually doing it for you. In a selfish and that's okay. Like
I'm gonna get academic here for a second.
Woo!
Uh-oh. Hold your pants up.
Dude, you're making me smile again.
So,
okay.
There's a a psychologist out of the University of Miami. His name is Isaac Prilatensky.
Is this the part of the program where you show everyone how smart you are and how stupid I am?
Or just reading from paperwork in front of me. But now Isaac Prilatensky and his wife Aura, their life's work in academia is mattering. So what does it mean to matter? And he has this diagram of a wheel. It's called the mattering wheel, and it kind of links all of these different life things together that we're talking about. And he'll say that doing something for someone else because it makes you feel good is not selfish. It's about feeling valued. And the core of well-being is, for him, in his perspective and his work, is adding value and feeling valued. And with that, you can have the foundations of well-being.
I think that guy has been listening to my podcast. I think he stole some of my shit, bro. But go ahead. Just want to go on record.
Possible. Hey, listen,
I want to go on record.
I cite
David.
John Kelly in my academic work all the time.
I want to go on record. There might be some plagiarism going on here.
But when you look at the mattering wheel, selfishness does not play into any part.
I called it the mattering sphere. So I don't know. Maybe there's.
It's a 3D version.
I'll shut the fuck up now. Oh my God. But no, dude, I think that's the science behind it, right?
Correct. Absolutely. And it's funny because so much of the science of psychology, especially positive psychology, it comes across as common sense. But then you go back to that old adage, I don't know who said it, the common sense is not so common.
Right. Right.
But
interjecting, speaking just to that briefly, because I don't want to get off my notes. You've gone back to school. You've gone back to school, which is always fun, because
it's been a trip.
It frees up time, is what it does. It just frees up all this time that you had no idea that you had all this free time. Talk to me about that real quick, just to let the listener know what you're doing in that regard, because since you've retired, you are fucking all in, bro.
I'm all in, but all over the place too. So, which makes a lot of it so challenging. But yeah, so after I retired, and we can go back into this in more detail later on, but for context purposes, I'm back in school at the University of Pennsylvania. So this old-fashioned door kicker is getting an Ivy League graduate degree. And
am I going to have to call you Dr. Berez?
Oh, no, I'm not going that far, buddy. Not that far.
Good. Because that would be a hard pill to swallow, my friend.
Yeah, that's in a different context. You can call me Doctor.
Yes. Well played, sir. Well played.
Another story for another day. But yeah, so I'm getting my master's in positive psychology from the University of Pennsylvania through the Positive Psychology Center there, and that's been a trip, man. It really has been. So the head of the program is Dr. Marty Seligman, who we affectionately call Marty because he doesn't see himself as this big falutin guy, right? But I will tell you the way that he's been described in the field of psychology, it goes Plato, Aristotle, Freud, Seligman. So
he's a heavy hitter.
Yeah, man. And to say that, it's like my grandparents one time were telling me stories about how they delivered eggs to Einstein in Princeton. They'd sit on his porch and talk about life. And I was like, holy crap, Einstein, like that. You knew Einstein, like they didn't know him obviously, but he was
but they had interaction with him.
Yeah. So I will be able to sit on a couch or on a porch in a rocking chair somewhere in wherever we retire to, and tell my grandkids stories about the days that, I would sit one-on-one in a classroom with Marty Seligman, and he would talk to me about the meaning of life. And, and to think that this guy is going to be put on the same pedestal as Freud and Aristotle and Plato and all of these unbelievable thinkers, right? And he's my guy.
You have a unique opportunity.
It's unbelievable
to glean so much knowledge from him.
And it's not lost on me, by the way, that this is so unique and so special. And I cherish every single moment of this program because it is just so unique. And the people that he brings in for the guest speakers, from Barb Fredrickson, Sonia Lubomirsky, the Proletenskys, I mean, I can go on with all of these like renowned, Roy Baumeister. It's these folks are truly legends in the field of psychology, and they'll be written about in history books for generations to come.
Wow.
And I get to sit down in a classroom and learn from these people. Like, holy shit.
That's amazing. What an amazing opportunity. And it's great
Yeah.
that that's not lost on you.
No, honestly, it's an out of body experience. It really is.
I'm glad, you know what,
So
this
cool.
is you. Yeah. I'm excited. You're talking about this the way I talk about, things in my wheelhouse. Like this is your new why, man. This is your new
It is.
passion.
And we'll get to why it's my why, I'm sure in a few minutes, but
Yeah.
It's exactly right. It's not so I define purpose as servicing your why. So my why is to serve people, and this is part of that purpose. So it's but we can get into that in a little bit.
Makes
I know that's
perfect
a little
sense.
deep, but
No, it makes perfect sense. I moving along. I was this last part considered happy? Because now we have to go sad.
we'll back down the roller coaster again.
Fuck, man.
Put your arms up and start screaming.
Yeah.
Here we come.
Woohoo! Rock on. Work.
Yes, sir.
All right, fucking work, bro. Cocksuckers. Listen to me. I've gotten in a lot of trouble at work. Had my badge taken from me 3 times, investigated by the FBI for civil rights violation, you name it, right? Fucking federal indictments looming. Not a fun time.
No.
But I have never been gone after for some petty ass bullshit like the way they went after you. Listen, if you're going to come after me, it's got to be a felony and it's got to be multiple. And if I can violate a few laws across a wide spectrum, okay. All right. Take your best shot.
Yep.
That was some chicken shit. And for the listener, please, you have an excellent career. You are a go-to guy. You're a drug recognition expert. You are, if there's a certification to be had, you're getting it. Always part of the solution. You're a ball breaker at times, and that's what we do. I would expect nothing less. And there comes a point in your career where there's some damage to a body camera. Your body camera, it's not operating. You tape it up, you have a conversation with a supervisor, not a big deal. We'll document it when you get back. Have a good few days off.
Correct.
Take it from there, brother.
Man, I will try not to get angry.
This is not no. Listen, right? It's laughter, bro. It is the most ridiculous, absurd. But this is what happens when happens when you have poor leadership.
And honestly, that's what this all comes down to.
Yeah.
Man, I could talk about that in our agency for another 4 hours. But so I was out the furthest zone from our headquarters, and we had these, the crappy body cameras that have those magnetic clip things that the backs always broke off, like whatever.
Right.
So I still don't know to this day how the physical damage happened to the back of my camera, which they claim I did it purposely.
Which listen, I'll give them, if you were involved in an incident that you wanted to destroy your camera so there wouldn't be a record of you tuning up somebody.
Correct.
I would say but there is no incident.
There's no incident.
There's nothing.
There's literally
the camera broke.
Correct.
Whether you took your vest off and it bounced off the floor, who the hell knows what the hell happened to it?
My best guess.
It's plastic and it broke.
My best guess, and this is again, best guess, couldn't tell you if it actually happened or not. When I took the seatbelt off, the seatbelt caught the camera,
of course,
and it broke the plastic on the back.
That's the most plausible.
Yep.
Worst case, you got pissed and you smashed it on the ground.
Never happened, bro.
Right. But what I'm saying is, okay, it's
Yes.
broke.
Yep.
How
So
it got broke is not
and
a
it wasn't,
big
by the
issue.
way, when we say broke, I'm talking about the ability to clip it onto my uniform. Not, it didn't work.
It's still operation. It's still
Correct.
recording, still recording data. Data can still be
100%.
downloaded.
Yeah, watching me pick my nose, the whole thing.
You are
right?
public enemy number one, sir.
So I went to go put some tape around it, and one of the convenience stores in the part of town that I was working in, and I figured, why am I going to go in? An hour left of shift. I have to get somebody to come out and cover my zone. Like, just wasn't worth it, right?
The non-issue.
It's a non-issue, completely a non-issue. So I go in at the end of the shift, show it to my supervisor. I'm like, hey, man, I'm not going to use names because I don't want to be sued by the guy.
No.
But I showed it to him, and he's like, what is that? I'm like, camera broke. I don't really know what happened, but I need to write it up. And he goes, who cares, dude? I'm like, no, but I know who cares. So it needs to be written up. He's like, listen, you're going on a 10-day vacation. Put that shit in the charger, and we'll see when you get back. Okay.
Roger that.
When I come back 10 days later, first thing I said to the guy is, hey, we got to write up this camera. He goes, why? What happened to it? I was like, remember at the end of the shift, Gus, when I was here, it needed to be fixed. He goes, nah. Well, why didn't you write it up then?
We're doing, so you're like, oh, so this is what we're doing now.
Yep, here we go. And I will tell you that what I noticed right away, because I know this guy, and he was a partner of mine for a very short period of time, is I know
a lot of eye contact now, right? A lot of eye contact. He's just like,
yeah, looking down and away to the left, right? Is that and so he was coached. He clearly told somebody else what had happened, and they saw an opportunity. And he was coached, and I was then told that I had to write a special report for breaking the equipment, for not reporting it on time, whatever. And at that point it was, days later, weeks later, I don't remember. It was a non-incident. Literally
of course.
So I was told that I wasn't specific enough and I had to write more details. And I was like, I don't have any more details. And they're like, well, then make them up. No, idiot. I'm not doing that, because then you're going to charge me with lying when the shit ain't right.
Listen, you can do a lot of things and get away with it at work.
Yeah.
The one thing you can't do is lie.
Correct.
You can do some really stupid shit. As long as you don't lie about it, you're okay.
Right. And apparently you can't forget either. When it's weeks later and it wasn't nothing to remember to begin with. I don't know, whatever. So so I got written up for that. And I gave my statement whenever, however many weeks later that was after that.
Right.
And they were gnawing at me with, where did you get the tape from to fix the camera? The convenience store. Like, well, which one? I'm like, honestly, I don't remember. Well, you have to tell us.
Jesus.
I'm like, well, what if I'm wrong? And then they're like, you got to remember the right one. I'm like, but they're like literally around the corner from
this.
I honestly, I don't remember.
This
and what's it relevant to this anyway?
Yeah, this is the part of the program. See, this is where David and John's stories diverge, because this is the part of the program where John goes, you know what? Fuck you, and fuck you. Go ahead, take your best shot. Because I've had a few under my belt already.
Yeah.
But
I've had a few under my belt.
You're
don't get
a good
me wrong.
Employee. You're like, fuck, what the fuck?
But I was so caught up in the why does this matter that I didn't get up and do that.
Right. No, I got you.
It was wild.
I'm right there with you.
So I'm like, fine, just put 7-Eleven. Honestly, I don't remember what I said. And they're like, okay. So, interview's over. I go home that night. And I'm like, you know what, motherfucker, I was wrong.
It's not 7-Eleven.
And this is why I was wrong. Like, I clearly remembered. So
the first thing I did, Quickie Mart,
exactly. I called the IA lieutenant. I'm like, and I left a message on his answering machine, so it was time and date stamped. I'm like, hey, I am sorry. I was wrong when you pressured me to make a choice, and I made the wrong choice. And this
wasn't 7-Eleven. It was Quickie Mart. Yeah.
Yeah. And so You know, they call me back in and they're like, oh, we got you. You were lying. So they charged me with lack of candor.
This is,
Yep.
dude, this people have, so, people hear the story. Our stress, anxiety, and deteriorating health does not come from public pressure.
No, it's organizational trauma.
It comes from within.
Yeah, man.
And so you're getting
I always
sweaty.
said I was less worried about getting shot in the face outside the building than stabbed in the back in it.
Yeah, no, true words, man. True words. So listen, they jack you up for a 16-day suspension.
Correct.
The smartest thing you ever did was not contest it.
Shake hands and say thank you.
Because you contest it, the chief can override the suspension because he was looking to terminate you, obviously.
Correct.
And he was hoping that you would have fought it, and you saw the writing on the wall. But this is what I love. You took your 16-day suspension, and you called them super days.
Correct. Because they put an S on the schedule board for suspension, so they call them super days.
And those were the days that you made the most out of spending time with your family.
Correct.
And right. It's
for all the crap that we've been through in this career. And my wife was by my side through the entire course of it. After we met, obviously we met, we got married in 2004. So, but she stood by my side through the whole thing. She saw the ups and downs. She saw the bullshit. She saw the internal nonsense, and she recognized what this was and what it wasn't.
Right.
And so she also recognized that it was a mental health challenge for me to manage this.
Yes.
So we made the best of it. And, she took off days that I took off, and was given off, I should say. And we made the best of them.
Right. And, but prior to that, I kind of jumped around. Prior to that, you took that to heart.
Yeah.
Listen, can I tell you, I was a little shocked. I don't know that David.
Yeah.
This is the David I know.
There was a dark David.
This is the John you know now, right? But you don't know that other guy, man. And so, but this fucked with you in a way that you didn't see coming, did it?
I didn't. And when I got the results of the 16 days, and before I had gone home with that information, I felt it was best if I was no longer a burden to the circumstances.
Listen, stop, right? Let's just fucking stop for a second. How the fuck, dude? Right? Let's work through this together.
I'm listening.
I know you are. How do you, with everything that we've been involved in, everything that you know to be true, everything that you know about you and your moral compass and your resiliency, how do you I lost my mind when I read that. I didn't see that coming. How do you let them, because somebody's going to walk away with something positive from this discussion right now. How do you let them frame a situation in your mind for you to think that little of you? It's an amazing question. Great question, John. Fuck yeah, it is. Because
I don't know the answer to it. It's rhetorical for me. What I can say is I had never felt so demoralized, so unworthy, so lack of mattering and meaning in my entire life. And the reason I say that, so I'll go back to the Prolotensky definition of mattering, which is to add value and feel valued. And you need both of those to have a sense of well-being and a sense of purpose and life in you. And I had given everything.
Add value and be valued.
So I given everything to my career. It was anything and everything to me. Not because I was, as we used to call it at the beach, the high CDI factor, the chicks dig it factor. That obviously has its benefits, but it wasn't why I was there. I was truly there to service my why through purpose. And my purpose at that time was being a police officer and was serving others, adding value to others.
Right.
And when I not only didn't feel valued, but I felt like there were people going out of the way to take value away from me.
Yeah.
My well-being had never taken such a hard hit. And I am so grateful to have the language to now give that moment and those circumstances. I didn't at the time. I didn't have the language or the context. And I think that's why I ended up in the position that I did following the conclusion of that investigation and the punishment. I think that's why I felt like removing myself from the situation and ultimately removing myself from this earth was all I had, because I didn't have the words, the definitions to put to that moment.
So
you're speechless, kiddo.
To transcribe your flowery language, you were contemplating killing yourself.
Yes.
And see, this is what gets me angry, David. And I'm on the other side of it now, so I'm going to be a dick. And I mean this in the nicest way. How fucking dare you for you to give them that kind of standing in your life to take that value from you? And I'm saying that to you as a brother, and I love you, but there's somebody listening to this right now who is letting their agency take their value from them. Somebody that they wouldn't fucking piss on if they were on fire. You're allowing that person, that organization, to redefine for you your worth.
Correct.
Shameful.
I couldn't agree more.
Right?
Couldn't agree more.
I want to shock somebody into fucking waking up right now that they don't get to decide. They don't get the vote on your value.
Yes.
You do. And I know I'm oversimplifying things, bro, but that's the way my brain works.
No, it's oversimplified in the most perfect way, because it's 100% accurate. And I think part of the problem, especially today, in today's environment, there's so many things pulling value from who we are and what we're doing as law enforcement officers. You have the media, you have organizations, you have community groups. All these people are stripping away by defaming the purpose of law enforcement and the law enforcement by default, the law enforcement officer, which is a human, by the way, a fucking living live person in that bag, wearing the badge. 100%. That is a father, it is a son, it is a husband, it is a brother, it is a sister, it is a wife, it's a daughter. And the world needs to see that human inside that uniform. And we've lost that. We've lost that sense of humanity overall, but certainly towards our police departments. And so to think that a simple incident was the straw that broke me, it wasn't that incident. It was culmination of things, right? Like there's no.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
It is, but our cups are only so big. And when our cup overflows, we don't always know what event is going to cause that to happen.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So what we need to do on the support side, the peer-to-peer side, mental health, is we got to make sure there's enough room in that cup that we can add something else to it before it overflows. It's our job, not only for ourselves and our own accountability, but our accountability to our brothers and our sisters, to make sure that glass is never so full that the next thing is going to cause it to overflow.
Right.
And self-care is what will allow you to make sure that cup doesn't overflow. Constantly siphon off some of that water to make sure there's always room to add one more thing.
You taking care of you takes on a whole new definition and a whole new meaning, because you never know what that one more thing is going to be.
Right. And I wasn't taking care of myself. I was still working out periodically. I was already 41, 42 at that time. So starting to get to that point where gaining a little weight that you can't take off, you're not building muscle back the same way you once did. Kids are doing kid things. My guys were a little younger at the time. and life's stressful and shit happens, but you got to make the time for you. And I was already decompensating when that started to happen. I went from being the first guy in the station before shift to being the last. I went from the last guy to leave to being the first. I was late to roll call most of the time, if not just walking in the door when it started. I was no longer checking my car before going out to make sure everything was set up right. I was literally flying by the seat of my pants, but I started to recognize that when this whole camera thing started to happen. But I didn't have the words, the language, the context to be able to identify it in the moment. And I briefly talk about this in the book, only briefly because of copyright issues, but you can talk about anything, free speech, right? You just can't put it in print. But in 2021, when I was watching the Grammy Awards, and we're talking a year and a half after I already retired.
Okay.
2021, watching the Grammy Awards, and I don't necessarily care for her music, but this moment hit me. Demi Lovato gets on stage in the middle of the crowd of the Grammy Awards, and the piano starts playing, and she starts to sing the first couple words of her song and breaks down and starts crying. I was like, wow, that was awkward. So they stop the production. She takes a deep breath. She regains herself. The piano starts from the beginning again, and she starts singing the song. The song is called Anyone. I literally melted into my couch, cried, and couldn't stop.
Okay.
And the crux of her song is why wasn't anyone listening? Why should I give a fuck anyway? And that's how I felt for the last 18 months of my career. I went from hero to zero in a very short window. And why wasn't anybody listening to me? And when nobody was listening to me, that second piece that I didn't feel valued subconsciously kicked in.
Yeah.
And then the camera thing happened, and that was it for me.
Yeah.
By the way, none of this was conscious thought at the time.
Again, no, none of it ever is, man. It's all emotion. It's all emotional. It's all that amygdala hijack. It's no rational thinking.
Yep.
It's all of that. Right. Hey, thanks for dissecting that, man, because I got mad, man. I got mad when I read that.
I get mad when I read that. I get mad now when I talk about it.
Yeah.
Because how fucking stupid could I have been?
Right. Because you know what I think too, David, of all of our brothers and sisters who have and us over the course of our careers who have fought evil to stay alive.
Yes.
Fucking hand to hand.
Yes.
And we're going to be the reason why.
I know. Well, and I think that's an important place to throw in some statistics.
Yeah, man.
Academic perspective.
I love it.
So right now we're, the highest rate of law enforcement on a job fatalities in the history of law enforcement over the last number of years. But we're also at the highest rate of self-inflicted death by our own hands, suicide. Yeah. And it's almost 3 times the amount of felonious deaths that occur in the course of the year are happening by our own hand. Think about that for a second. We are 3 times more likely to die by our own hand than we are by someone else assaulting us on the street. Are you fucking kidding me with that?
It's insanity.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Well, why? Well, we got to do better. We got to do better. And there are people, our friend Tom, all these other people that are out there doing these great things. And you and I have talked about this. We are past the fact where awareness needs to be made.
Right.
And we are at the juncture where we got to start making a difference. Awareness only gets us so far. Yeah. Get out there and do the fucking work and make a goddamn difference.
Yep. No, that's we don't need catchy slogans.
I shouldn't have gone off like that, but
no, dude. Listen,
passion point for me.
I'm going to have to edit out your swears. I'm going to leave all of mine in, and yours are going to be edited out. Yeah. No, listen.
I'm an academic now. I can't swear.
You know, you're a big shot, bro. I can still say fuck all day, and they're like, "Oh, he's a knuckle dragger." It's perfect. I fit the mold. So, and that's why. That's why you're doing what you're doing. That's why I'm doing what I'm. That's why Tom's out there. Tom Rizzo is out there making a difference. It's
There's many of
actionable.
them, by the way. I want to take a second and name drop.
Uh,
Tom Rizzo, you, Chris Hoyer, Chris Gregorio,
Yeah.
all of these guys, and honestly, not in law enforcement, but Sara Correll.
Sarah's amazing.
She is my heart and soul outside of my wife.
Olivia Johnson.
Olivia Johnson, absolutely. There are people making a difference, a huge difference. Mike Pellegrino and his wife,
Resilient Minds on the front lines.
Yeah. We have so many people doing the good work.
Yeah, Scott Medlin.
And it's freaking awesome.
Yeah. No, it's it's about putting the,
and of course, Randy Sutton. Can't leave out my boy Randy.
Randy, yep.
Killing it.
Putting the action plan in place. You actually taking action in your own life, and not waiting for somebody else to do it. It's
and I will, you know what? In that note, I got to add, because it's been such an important part of my life the last 2 years, is Craig Floyd. Craig Floyd, who, if you don't know him, he was the CEO of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, the founding CEO. He did that with George Bush, back in the early 90s. And when Craig retired, he now has Citizens Behind the Badge. I'm so fortunate to be part of that organization.
Yeah.
And Craig had, along with Sara, are the two non-law enforcement people that have done more for law enforcement than most law enforcement folks.
Right.
I want to put that out there.
No, and you know what we'll do, David, is we'll put all that information in the show notes too, because those are some amazing resources, especially real time. Sara Correll's The Power of Our Story, Thursday nights, 9 Eastern, which is past my bedtime. But yeah, it's talking about dude. Listen, you don't even want to hear it. Don't worry, my friend, you're catching up. You're catching up. So, all right. Now that I admonished you for that, thank you for filling in the backstory, because I know it's not ever just one thing, right? But that's what everybody else thinks. Oh, he fucking 16-day suspension and he offed himself. That's your legacy.
It's not that simple.
Right. It's that your legacy though, right? I mean,
not that simple.
Of course, it never is. You get through that, and you took some hints, man, because you tried to start all these businesses right during COVID, which was kind of adding to your, it was interfering with you achieving that sense of value and
correct
your why.
Yeah. So not only was I no longer feeling valued, I was no longer adding value. So, and now I lost the 50% that I had when I walked out the door and when I retired.
You had to hang on, you ended up losing.
I know. I took my skills that the government paid for and gave me and allowed me to have, throughout the course of my career. And I tried using that to make a second career, a chapter 2 for myself.
Right.
But it just, between COVID and all
you were like you were trying to sell snow cones in the Arctic Circle, bro. You're like, what the hell's going on?
You know why? I can tell you exactly why it didn't happen. 2 reasons. One is it wasn't my purpose.
Okay.
And 2 is I was chasing dollar bills.
Okay.
And when you're chasing dollar bills,
that's not going to work for guys like us.
No, you got to chase your heart. You got to chase your passion, and you got to follow your why. And my why was not being a defense expert. My why was not, doing security assessments. My why is helping people. Now you can convert some of those things into that why.
Right. But
not
the foundation,
the way I was doing
no, dude, when I got out of school, I needed a job. And I was going door to door selling home security systems, bro. The closest thing I could get to fucking doing anything to protect people was selling home secure. Listen to me. I would have it was a suitcase. I was like, and you opened it up and it had the mock house with all the sensors and shit. Yep. And I had a 2-hour memorized pitch.
Awesome.
It was, listen to me, listen to me. It was so bad. I was on commission, bro. I mean, I should have done like your grandpa and did the pencil pyramid scheme. I would have made more money, right? I would go in and ultimately I'd spend 2 hours with a couple in their home. And I go, you know what? I'd get to the end where I get the hard close
Yep.
and I'd go, you guys have been really great. I noticed you guys don't have a dog. Did you ever think I should have sold fucking German Shepherds? Because I said,
That's great, dude.
I would say, a dog is a member of the family. And I go, no. And I go, all you want to do is have the bad guy go to somebody else's house and not yours. And I said, and bad guys don't burglarize homes with German Shepherds. I said, so why don't you guys get a dog? And they like literally had the checkbook out ready to cut me a check for this home security system. And I would undermine, because you know what? There was no that wasn't my
Right.
thing, man. I could
Yep.
give a shit about that, right? So yeah, needless to say, I think I resigned before they fired me on that one. But yeah, man, if your heart's not in it,
You're done.
you're not gonna be successful. It's not gonna
No.
happen.
Nope.
And so this second and third chapter, I mean, this chapter, you're continuing to write it, man.
Yeah.
It's a never ending chapter. Um, I got to find a way to end on a high note of laughter, but we can't fucking walk away without talking about Danny, because Danny is everybody that and I know, who has been doing this thing of ours that we um I don't want to say failed, because ultimately they made a decision, right?
They did, but for what reason? Why did that decision happen?
Right.
So I think we need to put in here that, Danny died by suicide.
Dear friend of yours.
Very close friend of mine. Our kids are friends. We're friends. And this was July 29th of 2020. So the heart of COVID,
Yep.
the heart of civil unrest, a man's man, a great dad, great cop, great leader, a son of the city he worked in. And as much of a badass as he was on the street crimes unit, there wasn't a citizen who never said thank you to him after they got lumped up and arrested by him.
Huh.
He was just that guy. But he broke.
Mm.
During that dark time of the summer of 2020, the city, he felt that the city turned on him, his bosses turned on him. He felt that the community turned on him. He felt that his family, his wife, turned on him. And he then felt guilt and believed that his subordinates were turning on him because he couldn't fix it.
Let me cut you off. Applying what you know now, because before you didn't have words.
Correct.
You didn't have words to explain why he got to that point. See, because it's about us not getting to that point, David.
I know.
It's about keeping the slide that we all face from becoming that avalanche, right?
Yep.
And so, in knowing what you know now, talk to me about the things that were going on, and the things that we need to be doing from a buddy intervention standpoint, because when you're in it, when David's in it, he doesn't get a phone call from his kid, things don't turn out the same way.
Correct.
When somebody doesn't come to John and say, hey, you're going to eat your gut in 6 months, let's talk about this, things don't turn out the way they're supposed to. Brothers, friends, being there for each other. If we're waiting for rock bottom, we're not winning. We're not pulling out a win on this one. So it's about early intervention. It's about how we live our lives. It's about framing life events through a lens that we can deal with. How do we do that, David?
I think the best and easiest example that I think is relatable for all of us that I can use is when you're at work and you're on a call, your buddy's on a call, some of your squad, if you're a leader within your agency, one of your Subordinates is on a call. If you haven't heard from them in what you consider a reasonable amount of time, what's the first thing you do? Radio check.
Yeah.
Hey, 564, you 10-4? No answer.
Right.
564, you good? No answer. What's your next step?
Yeah.
They dispatch. What does his GPS read? Well, that's not where he's supposed to be. All right. What do you do next? Go find that GPS coordinated.
Right.
That person sitting there wallowing in something.
Right.
You got to be the one to be listening. You have to be the one because there's potentially somebody else. Most people are not. Be the one to listen.
Yeah.
Be the one to hear it. Be the one that they know you can come to when desperado is at their door.
Yeah.
Because chances are nobody else is doing it.
Right.
Be the one.
That's going to happen sooner rather than later, brother.
Yeah.
Sooner rather than later.
Be the one. That's all I can say. Peer-to-peer is how it gets fixed. Recognize the behaviors of your squad mates, of your friends, of your subordinates, of your leaders. Be a leader without having a title.
Yep.
If you're not a sergeant, lieutenant, captain, whatever, it doesn't fucking matter.
Nope.
That's who fixes the paperwork going up the chain.
Yeah.
It's not who the leaders are.
Right. True.
Leaders come from the individual. Leaders are followed and are admired regardless of any rank or title they may hold.
Right.
But all I can say is recognize people's behaviors, and when shit changes, don't break their balls. Ask them why. And when you ask them why, make sure you're listening.
Right.
And if they don't answer you the first time, ask them 2 or 3 or 4 times, because eventually they're going to tell you.
Right.
I talk about the Kevin Hines story regularly. I don't know if you know who Kevin Hines is.
Enlighten me.
He was a young or late teen black male in the San Francisco area who was suffering immensely from whatever emotional trauma he was dealing with. He goes into it in the story, in the video. And it took him about 45 minutes and 3 modes of transportation to get himself to the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, all right. Thank you. All right. Now I remember. Thank you.
And he jumps off the bridge and survives. He's one of, I believe, 7 people in the history of suicide attempts on this Golden Gate Bridge that survived. When they pulled him out of the water and they revived him, and somebody asked, "Why did you do this?" He's like, "Because nobody asked me what was wrong." And they're like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "If one person sitting on the bus past me on the bridge would have stopped and said, 'Hey, you all right, dude? You look like you're bothered by something,' he would have told them," he said, and he wouldn't have jumped. Make people feel like they matter. Because if you can make people feel like they matter, they are less likely to get to that point where they don't feel valued and they don't feel mattered. And you can save a life just by asking, "Hey, man."
Keeping a human connection.
Human connection is everything. Relationships and engagement saves lives. Be the one.
And do you know, but this fucking thing?
Terrible.
I don't want, I hate pointing to that stuff, but I think that this is a culprit that has dehumanized us.
Yeah, the whole cell phone thing is tough, man. And it's funny because we recognize that there's a connection by texting people, by commenting or liking a Facebook post, but it doesn't really mean anything.
No,
it doesn't mean anything.
There's no connection.
And I actually had a friend tell me once, if on my birthday, if you feel compelled to, post happy birthday on my Facebook page, or like that somebody else posted happy birthday on my Facebook page, you can't write it yourself, don't fucking bother. If you can't call me to wish me happy birthday, I don't want to hear from you.
That's how normalized our lack of human interaction has become.
Correct. And that is what's leading to these mental health issues, this crisis that we have of lack of well-being, this lack of mattering, and
lack of mattering, lack of adding value, or
being
being in a position to be valued.
Yeah.
So I'm going to walk through this with you. Lack of adding value, lack of being valued, scientifically are two major components, right?
The major components, so there's a few prominent psychologists that talk about, well-being. Dr. Seligman, obviously number one in that realm.
Yeah.
His PERMA model, which is positive emotions, engagement, meaning and mattering, relationships, and achievement and accomplishment, PERMA. That is like the tenets of all of it. But there's one of the others, and I think I mentioned him earlier, Roy Baumeister. He personally identifies 4 domains that rise to the level of meaning, and that is feeling a sense of purpose, having a basis for self-worth, clarifying a value system by which one judges what is right and what is wrong, and developing a sense of efficacy in the world. What is your self-efficacy? What are you doing to make a positive effect on the world? And honestly, this is my healing story. That's how I got to where I'm at. That's my healing story. Those 4 phases of some scientific research I didn't know existed until I came to school.
Right.
It's wild, right?
It really is. And
it's so simple, but yet we don't see it when it's happening.
No. And that's why I think it's important to have this conversation, because the way we keep from having those conversations about our brothers in the past tense is to do something in the present tense.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Proactively. And not be a bystander, man. Not have the tough conversation. And then listen, like you said, listen.
So important. And when you're helping yourself, I think one of the things I can recommend or suggest is storytelling is a very powerful tool. And you don't have to get on a podcast. You don't have to be on a TV show. Storytelling can be as simply as getting the shit that's scrambled up inside your noggin on a piece of paper in a notebook and document everything you can, just like if it were a police report.
Right.
Because once it's on paper, it doesn't have to clog you up anymore.
You've made some space. You've made some space for some other.
Lower that cup level a little bit.
Feelings.
Lower that cup level.
And you're talking about journaling, so to speak.
Journaling. And honestly, that's how my book happened. And I didn't know it at the time, right? Again, I'm putting definitions to things on today's language that I didn't have when I was going through this. It was somehow innate in me to do some of these things.
Okay.
And not saying I'm talking about my brilliance.
You're brilliant.
My intuition.
Listen, this is the part of the program where we start laughing again. So I want to talk about you being brilliant. That'll make me laugh.
That's not on my list, my menu of
I love
things I do best. But no, it was intuitive for me to document things to get this shit out of my head.
Right.
So that I had space to do other shit in there. Because listen, like you, there's not a lot of room in there.
Not a lot of bandwidth, brother.
No, I'm dealing with limited resources. So when stuff starts to get a little cross-wired, it's got to go to make room for other stuff. You can't think
about the good if all you've got in your head is the bad.
Right. And there's science behind that too.
Let's talk about it. What are the 2 things that can't occupy the same space?
Joy and sadness.
Yeah, man. Joy and sadness cannot coexist at the same time.
Nope. And so it's so important to get that out there. And one of the things that, we talk about in the resiliency program, and it is, by the way, a scientifically, empirically studied positive intervention, is a gratitude journal, or the 3 blessings exercise. This is all scientifically proven to work and increase your well-being. And Sonia Lubomirsky does a great job with developing these things, studying them, publishing them.
So give me the shortcut. What do I need to do to start down this path initially here?
Be grateful. Show gratitude. Document your things you're grateful for, because that's the things you'll look for. If we drive down the road every day, we don't see what we want to see, right? But if we think about a purple Lamborghini, as my daughter would say, that was her favorite car when she was younger. How many fucking purple Lamborghinis did I see over the course of the next several weeks when she told me she wanted a purple Lamborghini?
Right.
You wouldn't believe how many purple Lamborghinis are out there.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking about it, you're going to see it. So be grateful, show gratitude, and you'll be able to receive gratitude because you're looking for it. It's the same thing. It's real. Again, it ain't rocket science.
No, if you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at will change.
Yep. And I think Henry Ford had one too. If you think you can or can't, you're right.
Yeah, man. It's the power of the mind, and
it's
giving
incredible.
ourselves some positive suggestions goes a long way.
Incredible.
It's not hocus pocus, man.
It's not. And for school, we just read a book by Viktor Frankl. It's an old book, Man's Search for Meaning. He wrote it. I mean, he originally wrote it before his internment in the Nazi death camps, but he survived the Holocaust, and he recreated so much of it and then wrote this book. He goes on to say that even the people in the most destitute of moments, if they had hope, if they had purpose, they survived. And there's also scientific proof that your cardiovascular health is directly related to your mental status. If you can remain positive and optimistic, you are going to have the best cardiovascular outcome. If you are pessimistic and your well-being sucks inside the noodle, you are more apt by an unbelievable percentage to have cardiovascular failure. And there's scientific data that shows that if you are in a depressed state and you are a pessimist, it is equivalent to smoking 2 packs of cigarettes per day to your cardiovascular health.
That mind-body connection.
It's huge. It's huge. And I talk about that in the book too. That goes, honestly, the first time I heard about that was when I was in college in my Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity. Their motto was spirit healthy, body healthy. It didn't mean a fucking thing to me when I was a drunk 19-year-old kid in college.
Nor was it supposed to.
Nope.
Wow.
But all these years later, that whole idea of some aesthetic relationship where the mind and body literally interact. There's a book about that too. You know, the body keeps a score. It talks about mental trauma and how your body reacts to it. Great book.
Right.
And it's accessible. It's not really scientific. When you start reading it, it's readable. But yeah, that connection is strong, man. And if you're not taking care of your brain, your body's going to fall apart, and vice versa, by the way.
Right. Right.
Physical exercise is the best positive intervention you can do.
First thing that somebody calls me and says they're in a rut, you know, they don't like where they're at in life. I go, well, what are you doing for you? What do you mean? What do you mean? All right. So give me a day in the life of
me.
Well, no, this is what I say to them.
Okay. I was going to say, mine ain't that interesting, bro.
There's no journaling. There's no journaling. There's no exercise. There's no self-care. There's absolutely nothing for self. And
how are then you feeling valued?
How are you adding value?
You're not
from an empty vessel. How do you add value to anyone's life if you're empty?
And that's where I was in those last 18 months of my career.
Right.
I didn't feel like I was on either end of that.
Glad you figured some shit out, bro.
I did. Danny's suicide was a pivotal moment for me. It was a turning point where I realized I needed to recalibrate, as Jocko would say. I love when he says the word recalibrate. It comes out very cool. Yeah. But his whole concept of good, something's fucked up. Good. Let's fix it.
Opportunity.
That equipment doesn't work. Good. Try something else.
Right. See
if that works better. Shit's fucked up. Good. Let's move on to something else. Try a new tactic.
Right. I always, people ask me, I said, stop thinking and start acting.
100%. 100%.
When we act, we get feedback and then we can adjust.
Correct.
That worked, it didn't work. That OODA loop, we can run that. And
100%.
We do it on the job all the time. We won't do it in our personal lives.
Yep.
It's like, come on, man. It
And
ain't that
again, it's
hard.
common sense, right? But now, as cops, we are, and those in the military have the language, the OODA loop language, to understand that what they're doing in real time. Now, fucking fix it, bro.
Right. Get that feedback and adjust, pivot.
Yes.
Hey,
It took me some time to figure that out, though. I'll be honest.
no, well, listen, this is why we're talking about it, because listen,
I'm no guru here.
no,
It's not going to go Plato,
please.
Aristotle, Freud, Seligman, Berez.
Listen,
I promise you.
Listen, I know you've been rattling all the shit off from your fucking school notes. All right. You're not fooling me at all. I got to say this though. Listen, and this is why we're doing this, David, because we're not saying that we know a lot. We're just saying that we've fallen, we've failed, and we figured some things out.
And sometimes you can do it on your own, which is awesome. Good on you.
Right.
Sometimes you can't.
And if you can't, there'll be people like you and me and Tom Rizzo and Mike Pellegrino and a fucking list of Sara Correll and a whole list of people out there that'll help you, that'll extend a hand, they'll jump down in the hole with you, they'll show you a way out. And I think that's where we're at in all of this, is that.
I agree. It's that peer support piece. And honestly, people are like, I can't do that. I'm not strong enough to get to do. Dude, you go out there, kick ass, take names every day. Now do it for you. You are strong enough. And if you go get help, that's the strongest thing you can do for yourself.
I always, you know what I
There's
get
no
mad?
weakness in
You know
getting
when
help?
I call somebody a pussy? I call them a pussy not for having a problem. I call them a pussy for not getting help.
Yeah, agreed.
Like we got it back. You're not a pussy if you go get help. You're a badass. You are a pussy if you continue to wallow.
Yes.
The mind thinks the opposite, that if I admit, then I'm less. No, you're a rock star. You're human. We embrace that. What we can't and no longer can condone is the notion that somehow you're the stoic, I've got, you've fucking Johnny Big Balls. No, it's the opposite. It's the opposite of everything we've been led to believe, at least my generation coming up and those before me.
I agree. I agree. And I saddened and burdened by this younger generation, Gen Z and below, where these folks don't have the R in PERMA, the relationships, or the E, the engagement, because they're not interacting with live humans. All of this technology, this AI stuff, they're great tools, but they can't replace. They can't replace you.
These generations have used them to replace that interaction that is so valuable.
I agree. Yeah. And that's where the value to the individual comes in, is sharing that with somebody else, sharing the experience, sharing the moment, opportunities. Like it doesn't matter if you get promoted if nobody's there to watch you get the bars pinned on, right? Like it doesn't mean anything.
No, how we interact with each other, how we not only add value to our own lives first, and then the lives of those that surround us. That's the thing that legacies are made out of.
And Rizzo talks about that all the time with the leadership.
Yeah.
That's his thing.
Dude, you've seen him before present?
Yeah.
All right. So I had a front row seat at the cops convention in Orlando a couple weeks ago. I thought I was animated and had energy. Listen to me.
Next level, dude.
Now I know how he stays in such great shape. He doesn't have to do cardio, man. He is
a lot of protein bars.
Dude, he is so engaging and spot on with his analysis, and he's really a master of it. If you're listening and you want to book somebody that's going to help turn your agency around and its culture from the top to the bottom and from the bottom to the top, you need to check out Tom Rizzo's Ivory Tower program. He's all over social media, Instagram. I'll put his information along with David's in the show notes. But yeah, he's doing some amazing things.
Yeah, it's his big thing is leaders build more leaders. That's their job.
Right. Right.
And leadership is not about demanding shit from others. It's about getting them to give the best version of themselves back to the work. And it's your job to elicit that from them.
Yeah.
And that's adding value to them. And when they succeed, that's adding value back to you.
Of course.
It's a reflection of what you've put into them. It's an investment.
Yep.
And, sadly in our industry, we don't get a lot of that.
No, the lack of caring
is ridiculous.
Caring more about your people than you do yourself.
Yeah.
Don't need, I'm gonna cut out SPI and the NA and all these other amazing leadership and IACP. How about you go with this one tenet? Care more about them than you do you, and
100%.
You'll be successful.
100%.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. This is the problem when you and I sit down.
We're at the 2 hour mark.
We're at 2 hours. Fucking Joe Rogan today, apparently. This is what I want to do, man, because you're not going anywhere and neither am I. I want you, if you would, I'm going to keep my tabs on you and check back in with you periodically, see what you're doing. I want you, if you would, I want you to leave the listener with something, man, that there's tons of value that they've pulled from this conversation, thanks to you. If you could leave them with one thing that you would like to share with them from whatever brain cells you have left bouncing around up there after going to school and being a student of higher learning.
Smart guy now.
Yeah, you are wicked smart. Wicked smart. If you could leave them with something, brother, before we wrap, I know I would appreciate it, and I know they would too.
For me, it's kind of simple in a very complex way. And it has nothing to do with my overall journey. I've had this signature, this tagline on my email signature for probably 10 years. And it is lead by example, stay resilient, and earn your badge every day. The last part of that, I think, is the most important, because, the Navy SEALs have what they call a trident when they earn that trident to become a Navy SEAL. And I don't compare us to what they do. That's a whole nother conversation. But they have to earn that trident and to keep it, not only during their career, but if they fuck up in life 20 years after they've retired, somebody's coming to pull that trident from them because they dishonored their pledge. And I feel the same way about what we do as cops. Different job, different mission, different responsibilities, different level of everything. However, we are gifted the privilege of wearing that badge the day we get hired. It's our job to earn it every day after. And if you can't uphold a core value system where every morning and every night you've earned the right to wear that thing, fuck you and give it back. Because as cops, that's what's going to keep us moving forward, is waking up in the morning, being able to look at yourself in a mirror, knowing that you are going to make somebody else's life better that day, however that happens.
Right.
And unfortunately, sometimes that happens in a very bad and violent way. But that's a choice that other person made for you to be able to add value to somebody else. That said, when you get home and you put your head back on a pillow and you've looked yourself in the mirror and you brush your teeth before you go to sleep, appreciate and be proud of the person looking back at you, that you earned your badge that day. Because you'll sleep good, you'll sleep tight, and you'll wake up in the morning with a fresh outlook to do it all over again. But earn your badge every day, and don't ever put yourself in a circumstance where somebody needs to take that from you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the book is A Resilient Life, a cop's journey in pursuit of purpose. by my good dear friend, David Berez. Thanks for your time, brother. I can't wait till we do this again.
Thank you for having me, pal.